All right, all hi. Thanks for coming. Thanks for Side Effects for inviting me over. So my name is Tim, and I'm going to do a little bit of a different presentation from stuff that I normally do. I've done presentations before. It would always be about like this project I worked on, and then I do like a little breakdown. But today I want to talk about something I dubbed the freelance thug life, hustling as a Houdini freelancer. So just going to be about my experience as working as a freelancer for different studios, and obviously this is going to come from my perspective, so it might be different for other people. But you just get a sense of what it's like to freelance as a Houdini artist, and some tips and tricks, I guess. Maybe because more and more people are starting to get into freelancing and using Houdini, so I thought it would be would make for some sort of an interesting presentation. Hopefully. So some stuff about me. So I'm Tim van Helsdingen. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm freelancing for just over 4 years, and I'm still alive, so I guess I'm doing okay. I mostly work in advertising in the broadest sense of the word, so I don't focus on purely motion design or visual effects or whatever. I do a little bit like of everything, as you will see in like a little reel that I edited. I'm a generalist specialized in effects, so I do a little bit of everything, but I mostly focus around building FX related setups and making cool effects, and then occasionally I also shade and render and comp it, but majority is just building the setups and simulating stuff. And I regularly do like tutorials, which you might know me from. So like I made a little, I've never put a show reel online, but I made one for here, so you can see some stuff that I did. Okay, so okay, great. So yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, thanks. All right, so like a lot of different type of things, so it's not as specialized as some of the other guys here did. Anyway, the start of why is it not full screen anymore? Oh well, it's fine. So when I started freelancing was also when I personally got into Houdini. I was doing a lot of branded content, motion designy stuff in After Effects and Cinema 4D, and I was absolutely like I didn't want to do that anymore because it was a lot of quantity over quality type of work that I was doing, and I didn't really enjoy a lot of that. But I always enjoyed like making like cool effecty type of setups, which even when I started doing 3D and 3ds Max, I was always playing around with like Fume and Rayfire. And when I started freelancing, I was like, okay, now I'll probably have more time, so I guess I can start learning Houdini, because everybody was going on about how great Houdini was. So a little bit maybe different from some other people who get into freelancing, but that's what I did. And I really noticed that Houdini is a magic word. It's not. It's named after Harry Houdini, obviously. Because what I really noticed is like because now more and more studios are starting to use Houdini, and then when you mention that you know Houdini, then everybody is like super interested. If you want to try this out for yourself, go to the recruitment stand in the back, and yeah, that will they will be like looking super bored because they're talking to everybody all day, and then you mention, yeah, but I do Houdini, and then they're like, whoa, come, I want to see your reel. That's also what kind of my experience from doing Houdini as a freelance artist. So some misconceptions about the freelance thug life. because I think there's some misconceptions from some people. So first, it's not being in between jobs, as some people refer to it, I guess. Some people might, like, their contract might not get renewed, and then they're like, okay, I guess I am freelancing now. But if you keep that mindset, if you're gonna start freelancing, you're always like on the lookout for, okay, I'm gonna apply to this job and see what it gets me, and then get some freelance gigs on the side. It's not really gonna, if you don't treat it as a proper career, you're gonna get less out of it. Another thing, it doesn't mean like sitting like this in your home and be by yourself and not meeting anybody. Because actually a lot of the work you will be doing, especially as a Houdini freelancer, you can get in-house at studio, so they just will book you for a couple of weeks, and you'd go in-house and work with all of these cool people. And it's actually really interesting because you'll meet people all over the place, and that's quite fun. And of course you can also only do projects like from your own living room. It might look like this, hopefully not. But it's not necessarily the case of what freelancing is gonna be about. This is gonna be a little bit different, maybe also for where you're located. Like, I live in Holland, and Holland is like super tiny, so I can travel like to every different studio basically within like an hour. So that makes it super easy because there's quite a lot of studios, and I can work for everything in-house basically without needing to spend my time in hotels all of the time. So that's quite nice. Alright, so some stuff about the working everywhere. So you're gonna work as a freelancer within studios, as I mentioned before. So that's gonna, of course, come with some stuff. So you're always gonna be the new guy, and you always have something to prove. If you've ever like applied for a new job and you started doing a job somewhere, of course you're always gonna feel like you need, like they've seen your work, and they're gonna feel like you're gonna need to deliver a certain type of thing, and that's what you feel every time you're gonna work for a new client. Of course, if you've worked for certain studios a couple of times before, it's not like they already know what they're getting into. But like working for new studios all the time, you always have this feeling that you need to prove yourself, because they will, like every studio probably has experiences working with freelancers that don't really deliver. So they are always afraid of getting another one of those. Oh yeah, this is something about. So more and more studios are starting to adopt Houdini within their pipelines. But a lot of studios were typically working with Maya or 3ds Max or even Cinema 4D. So what they're used to, like if you have producers working there and they're used to working with artists a lot of times that very quickly output some type of content, and they sort of very fast to a first result. But in the end, they're gonna be used to them redoing the whole thing all over again, because it's all completely destructive. Well, in Houdini, of course, as you know, you're gonna build procedural setups, which take more time initially to set everything up, and then after that, it's gonna be super fast to iterate across that. But if you're working with a studio with like producers that are not used to a Houdini freelancer, for example, coming in, might be something to point out, like, yo, okay, I'm maybe not gonna have as fast a result, but like I'm gonna be able to iterate around that, so they won't be like, why is this taking so long to see something in the beginning? All right, accurate representation of some pipelines. So this is, as I mentioned, like I've worked for small and medium scale studios quite a lot, and all of them are all of them are very interested now in doing stuff procedurally, but they are gonna have tools developed for Maya, and they like to do certain stuff. And then when you come in, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do like procedural stuff, like within Houdini now we're doing FX. Like they don't always know how to handle the data, and they don't have pipeline tools in place for everything. So you're gonna be your own sort of little pipeline TD in that case. Especially when getting Houdini stuff into Maya, it's always a hassle. I don't know if you have ever tried, but like stuff breaks all the time, and like you cannot import particles and like certain attributes, you cannot read them. So you need to know how to get your stuff to different applications depending on which studio you're going to work with, and it's something you're gonna learn along the way. And like, that's probably my least favorite part, because sometimes I do a project and like of the 2 weeks you're working on it, you're gonna spend a couple of days even trying to get your stuff into Maya, which is horrible. All right. Oh, some of the good, the bad, and the ugly, which I think about doing freelance stuff. The good. Right. So I really like the diversity. Like I'm coming all over the place. I'm going to new studios and meeting a lot of cool people. Like you make friends all over the place, and then after you're done with the project, after a couple of weeks, and you're like, okay, now I'm glad I can leave. But then you come back after 6 months and you see all your friends again, which is quite cool. More control over the type of work. So I absolutely hate modeling, and I will never take up any modeling work. But like because like you get offered gigs, and then like if you don't take up the type of gigs, you're not gonna get them offered the next time. Well, if you're gonna keep taking up all of the modeling jobs, and after a while you're gonna be a modeler, and it's not something I personally like to. Maybe some of you are, but more time for personal work sometimes. So it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have a lot of time for personal work, but you can make time for personal work, which is what I like. So what I then usually do is like I round up a project, and then I take some time off after every project to work on personal stuff. I used to not do that, and then I would do it like after work, and then you're doing like, you're only spending time behind the computer. But you can sort of make it work better for you, like if you're doing your own planning, of course. And yeah, of course, the pay is gonna be better. Like if you're gonna work a week, you're gonna make more money than other people do in a month. So that, of course, it depends. Like if you actually need to get jobs in, so that like else you're gonna starve. All right, some of the bad. Yeah, okay. So you're gonna have the dealing with clients and producers, and you're gonna, of course, you're gonna talk about like you're gonna talk about the money aspect. You're gonna plan, like do your own planning. You're basically gonna be your own producer, sort of, and working with other producers. And I rather spend my time making cool setups. But this is stuff you're gonna be doing if you're just like your own business, basically. Almost every gig you do is crunch time. So when working in a company, it might be a little bit up and down. Sometimes you might have like periods which are super busy, and then you might have like periods that are less busy. As a freelancer, they don't ask you to come over if like, okay, yeah, we don't really have much to do, but we like having you here. That doesn't happen. So they get you in if they either lack the skill completely, or there's so much to do that they really need other hands, else they wouldn't be paying the extra money for someone to come in. So every gig you're going to do is be crunch time. And of course, in the beginning of projects, it's going to be a little bit less. You're going to have the R&D phase, but generally it's quite crunchy. It's easy to overcommit. So something I was doing like pretty like in the beginning, way too much. So I would just say yes to everything. Like, okay, I'll figure out how it will work down the line. So then you end up working 80-hour weeks, which is not ideal. Because like if you're taking up a job, for example, 2-week job, and you're gonna do it, and then something else comes in for like the week after you finish, and like, this should be fine. I have the time. Like, I'm should be free after that. And then the one job extends for a week, and then you're doing double work, and you're juggling multiple jobs. And if you do that for a couple of years, that's the way to get overworked. So don't do that. Oh yeah, and you already mentioned that a little bit with the crunch time, but you're going to be more reliant on your own skill, because especially with the studios that don't have a proper Houdini workflow in place, or they might have one Houdini artist, but like it's not going to be an entire team. So you're going to be more reliant on what you can do. But of course, the community is really great, as Moritz always also mentioned in his talk. Like if you have a question online and you post it, everybody is eager to make you a hip file on how stuff works. So that's quite great. And of course, you're going to have additional costs. But luckily, India is super cheap, so that's good. But you're going to have overhead. Like if you get sick, then if you don't have savings, if you don't have money saved up, you're fucked. So save money. And like other stuff, like insurance, because like the pay for a freelancer sounds super high, but if you break it down from like all of the extra costs that you have, it's actually not that much. Okay, so you still want to be a freelancer and work weekends and probably I try not to do that personally. I like my weekends. Okay, so it's not going to be for everyone. I think that it's self-explanatory, but let me just break it down a little bit. So like you can have this guy who is super great at doing their work, and they're like the most technical guy ever, and they can make everything work. But if they have a hard time like getting themselves out there, you're not gonna get work. It's not gonna just come your way. You're gonna need to work for that. And if you're like maybe super introverted, it's gonna be hard to do sort of type of stuff. And you need, of course, to like have a more of a, I guess, entrepreneurial type of thing, like a go-getter type of personality maybe to do it. Although it's not necessarily true, because I used to be quite shy, and freelancing like was like I never. If you asked me 10 years ago, I didn't think I would be freelancing now. So it can also be a little bit different. What's new? Oh, I'm going way too fast. Oh, that's fine. So have a specialization. I know most people probably recommend you to like know everything when you're freelancing, and then you can take up every single job, which I kind of disagree with. The thing is, like, if you talk to two people, like for example, you're just walking around and having a beer with some new people, and you talk to two different people, and one is going to be like, yeah, I'm a generalist, and I could do like I did rigging on this one show, and then like I did some shading here. And maybe like he has a great reel, and it's going to be awesome. And then you have this other guy who's like, yeah, I'm a fluid specialist, and I write my own solvers, and like I do the most amazing stuff. And then when a certain project comes up, for example, it was something that would require fluids, you would think about like that guy. And like for studios, it's going to be the same. You're going to think about the fluid guy that's really good at that fluid thing. While if they need a rigger, that probably not think about the guy that also does like a little bit of rigging and is pretty okay at it. They probably just get a specialized rigger. But it's still good to know other stuff. Like as an FX artist, it's also like probably good to know like what type of passes will be good for compositing, or like to know some shading. So you can also do that stuff yourself, either in-house at a studio or at your own studio. Right, so don't undersell yourself. What I see a lot of people starting out doing, I also did a little bit myself when I started out. So but I see a lot of people in the beginning, they're gonna be quite stressed. They're like, fuck, I need money, like, I need jobs. So if I just lower my, like I'm at a super low day rate, then people are gonna hire me because I'm cheap. But ask yourself, like, if you're gonna be a recruiter at a studio, and there's some guy who probably has a pretty okay reel, but they're gonna ask a super low day rate. Why are they asking that super low day rate? Like, that's what they're gonna think. Like, why is this guy asking so little money for a skill that's quite okay? So they're gonna be more suspicious if you ask too little money. If you're gonna ask a lot of money, they're like, okay, he's probably really good. And you'd need to do less work for the same stuff. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, I guess. You obviously shouldn't ask more money than you're worth, but you shouldn't underprice yourself. Also, what some people forget is like if a studio, for example, has someone employed, and that person would, for example, make like a not a freelancer, but like a regular employee. For example, this guy might make like 150 a day, like a junior mid-level guy. That's not what the studio is paying him. They're paying his cost is going to be to employ this guy is going to be 2-3 times higher. And that's also what you're going to get in your freelance price. So even though a freelancer for 500-600 a day sounds expensive, but it's not if you break it down to how much a studio even pays for regular employees. So producers might make you feel like you might be expensive, but it's actually just them trying to save money. Keep doing personal work. I mentioned before, like try to keep like having time to do that. Because I notice for every single personal project I do, I get job offers after that. For like if I did a sort of fluid project or something, people share it around, and then I see that stuff, and then and it always ends up leading to more work. So I don't see it as wasted time. Plus, personal work is just how I try to grow my skill, because especially in advertising, usually there's a lot of like tight deadlines, and a lot of times like I'm not really that happy with everything I do, because like there's just not enough time to make everything. But with my personal stuff, I just go at it until I'm happy. Just some last things before we do the questions thing. So probably don't do it as a first job, even though a lot of people will probably do it after graduating. But it's a good thing to have experience in a studio environment, to know how everything works. Even if you're still doing internships, of course, in your study, but it's still good, I think, to have a proper job before. So have savings. Like don't have 2 months of savings. Have like 6 months of savings before you start, and then build that up. I saved like 40% of everything I made for like the first 2 years of freelancing. So. And attend events, but you already know that. Like you're gonna meet so many people here, and like every single person you meet might mean like a potential job opportunity, like a potential gig in the future. So yeah, that was my. I think like there's time for questions. So questions, and I wanna do it with the proper thug life. So hopefully it was interesting, even though it wasn't technical about Houdini.
Hey, thanks for your talk.
Yeah.
I have a question about how you approach studios. Like, you mentioned earlier that you don't really have a reel. That's my first question. And the other one is, like, how do you know that a studio needs your skills for certain shots or for certain requirements?
Well, of course, like right now, I don't really like you usually approach me, because well, like Holland is quite small, and I'm one of the maybe 3 Houdini freelancers there, so it's not really a large pool to pick from. So that's one thing. But in the beginning, when I started out, when I was doing the transitioning, of course, because I started out doing Cinema 4D and After Effects stuff, but I was just like attending a lot of events and buying everybody beer, and I hosted like my own drinks event to and invited people from studios over to like, okay, I'm doing this thing now, but like probably if you're starting out, it's good to have a reel. I used to have a reel when I started out, so it's like I just haven't made one because I was never happy with stuff. I was always waiting for new stuff to come before to make a reel. But yeah, in the beginning, just contact a lot of studios. Go to events and show your show reel. Like go to the recruitment stand here and show your stuff. But like after a while, if you know enough people, it's going to be a word of mouth thing. Because like I just like right now I know a lot of people in my country who like also are doing 3D, and like I recommend them for jobs and they recommend me for jobs. So I haven't really needed to look for anything in a while. Also because of personal work. Like if I make a like I did the thing was in my reel with like I had the Jeep driving through the mud thing. that was like shared everywhere and on websites. So, and then if people Google like water sim or whatever, then something like that comes up, and then that also leads to work. That's also why I'm saying like keep doing like really good personal stuff and like hashtag the shit out of it so it comes up in like search results. No, but like that's that because like if a recruiter is looking for like some fluid guy and one of the first hits is gonna be like your work, then it's also gonna lead to more work, I guess. So
Thanks.
kind of rambling, but hopefully that was
Yeah, that was great.
interesting.
Thanks.
More questions?
Really great talk, thank you. Have you ever considered selling your work on public platforms like Fever?
What's Fever?
It's a platform for freelancing work.
Oh, Fiverr.
Fiverr, I'm sorry, yeah.
Oh, no, when I started out, I did some of the, like, but I was doing, like, Cinema 4D work on the, what is it called? What's some other site? I don't remember what that was called. I did get some jobs through that, but, like, most of the people there are, like, really underpricing themselves, so I don't think it's a really great platform.
So you don't consider it to be a serious platform?
Well, it can be, but like there's also a lot of Indians on there working for $3 an hour. So, it's, I mean, if you're good enough, then might lead to work. But I think like especially if you're doing like something more specialized as being Houdini, if there's in your country where you live, if there's like plenty of studios. They just need to know that you do Houdini stuff, and eventually they'll probably have projects that are coming your way. I think that's probably a better way of going at it, like just word of mouth and people talking about your work. And in the beginning, it might be a good way to get some money and like get some smaller jobs, but I don't think it's like maybe long term, like maybe not gonna be that great. I keep rambling.
Thank you.
Any more? I see hands there and there. Who wants to go first? Oh, one more question.
Hey, you're also doing tutorials.
Yeah.
Do you? I think you have a Patreon page.
Yeah, since like a couple of weeks.
Do you also make some money from that, or is it really just giving back to the community and the hobby basically?
Well, I've been doing tutorials for years, and I never charged for any of the stuff that I did. If you've been following me on Vimeo for like quite a while, like I made pretty long tutorials. It actually takes quite a while to make, and I was selling some stuff on Gumroad, like, but it makes some money, but it's not that much. And now I'm doing the Patreon because I thought it might be a nice way to like keep up to date. And it's also, but I made it like 3 weeks ago, so it's not. I mean, I cannot pay my rent for it, but it's growing. So I just do it because I like giving back to the community, but what I'm doing then is like I usually make the videos free and then I make some hip file paid and then people can support. If they want the hip file, they can just buy it. But it's more of a thing I like to do for fun. So
Cool, thanks.
so that was I think that was the last one. If you have other questions, you can just come after to ask stuff. So do that.
Thanks, Tim.